Hello, everybody. My name's Milan Starcic. Welcome to Freedom Rising, a podcast dedicated to empowering individuals on the journey to personal growth, lasting serenity, and freedom from addiction. Tune in and join the movement. Your journey to freedom starts here. We neither represent, promote, or demote any 12-step program or organization. We are merely souls on the path of recovery with the desire to expand our lives and experiences and share them with you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 91st Recovery Freedom Rising podcast. We're almost to 100, boys. I'm Milan Starcic with co-host Sir Fish Pond and Mr. Mossy Boots Bayou here today. And I'm Crippled Creek. Okay, today's topic is being happy, being wrong. Can you share what this means to you, Sir Fish Pond, and why you're happy to discuss this topic today?
I will, and thank you very much, and always a pleasure to discuss these things with both of you. I would suggest that it is a very slow and probably not yet arrived at destination to suggest that I'm happy being wrong. But what I've come to understand is that sometimes the greatest growth can come from admitting that you're wrong. I also think that if I can elaborate on the idea of being wrong, I think it's giving other people the opportunity to maybe give positive feedback where you might be blind to some areas of your life. I think what I would say is that I am a lot better at admitting I don't know, in a lot of situations, whereas I went through quite a few years where even after I admitted I was powerless, I still thought that I knew what was right and wrong. And I'm just learning a lot through my own challenges and watching people grow around me. It's another mystical idea that has different layers to it, and I'm happy to talk about it more.
I love that. I feel like there's a bunch of layers too. And now, Mr. Mossy Bayou, would you like to tell us what being happy, being wrong means to you and why you were happy to come on with your mossy boots?
Certainly. So first, it's funny that you mentioned Bayou because I went to a jazz camp when I was younger.
No way.
And I was part of a Dixieland band. Jazz.
You were born in the Bayou.
So awesome.
I think I was born in the Bayou somehow.
That's amazing.
I can picture you in a jazz suit.
With red bow tie and everything.
Yeah.
Some overalls and playing my tuba.
Let's do it.
So for me, being happy, being wrong, the first thing that came to my mind was I don't need to be right all the time anymore.
Yeah.
I have the freedom to not be right all the time. I have the freedom to fail. I have the freedom to lose an argument or be on the wrong end of a discussion. There's a freedom to being wrong. And I think that way because of step 10, where it talks about when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. And I really like the interpretation of that, saying that it's not if I will be wrong, it's when I will be wrong. So
nice.
There's the opportunity there that I am going to make mistakes. I am going to fuck up my life somehow. But there's a path now. Now that I'm in recovery, there's this clear path for, oh, you made a mistake. This is what you can do. This is how you reset yourself. This is how you correct your course. So
nice.
That's what I think. I'm happy just because I love this podcast and talking.
Yeah, I love you two guys. I love the pond and I love the bayou and I love fish and I love moss. I got all this love, man. And pond, fish pond. Okay, for me, what has happened a lot recently in the last few months is that I've been caught forgetting some of the fundamentals in the program.
Mhm.
and the biggest one most recently was on another episode when I had this guy on I met in Mexico, and he said, this isn't a program of self-improvement, this is a program of surrender. And I had realized that all my struggles were like, hey God, you work on the addiction, and I'll take care of anger, and I'll take care of anxiousness, and like, guess what? 51 years of me trying to take care of it before the program never got me even close. And and so now though, like, instead of being like, a sucky little baby about being wrong, I was like, woohoo, pick up the torch of surrender. Let's go surrendering, boys. Hey, you boys want to go to the bayou and do some surrender? I, I want to
That's
drink
right.
some fish water. I surrender so much.
No way.
What the hell is fish water?
It's happened. Yeah. Change it to fish water, Sir Fish water.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do that. So for me, it was a real eye opener about how different I am right now than I used to be.
Mm,
I never I would have been like mad at myself for having lost my way or missed my point. And now I'm just grateful that I didn't spend the rest of my life without figuring that out.
mhm.
Like turning it, or that self-loathing and disappointment into gratitude for the potential that I still have some time to change.
Yeah.
And
Mm,
and
nice.
so, like, I wasn't like happy I was wrong, but I was happy that I had the opportunity to learn what I was wrong about.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
feel that, like, there's just so, like, kind of sneakily hidden behind this title is open-mindedness and acceptance.
Mhm.
Beauty.
You know, like, at least for me right now in where I'm at. And so I'm just fascinated of where we're going to go with this today, because every time we're together, it's a journey through time, space, and mental impressions.
It is.
Okay, Mr. Or Sir Fishwater, would you please ask Mossy Boots Bayou a question?
Sure.
We could call him
Uh,
MBB or MBIU.
so my questions today are pretty short and sweet. They are number one, did you find relief in admitting defeat? Like that that I guess that's the first admittance of I think there's a difference between defeat and powerlessness and being wrong, but I think that's the first time where you're like, I might not be on the right track, like,
Mhm.
you know. So yeah,
Yeah.
was there any did you get relief when you admitted that?
Yes. And I got that relief when I formally worked a step one.
Yeah.
Um, so for me, for me, how this breaks down, uh, I mean, doing your first step one isn't easy, right? Like, I was like the last person to realize that I had a drug problem, which is,
Right.
which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
But, but so I'm going to meetings, right? And I'm meeting other addicts and doing step one, and two things happen. So one thing was knowing that I had the disease of addiction put a lot of puzzle pieces together in my life,
Mhm.
right? And the other thing is as I being able to identify as an addict, right? So okay, so I'm doing step one, like, you know what? I'm an addict. Like, this is it. I'm an addict. But here's the cool thing is that if I'm an addict and you're an addict and you have more time than I do and you've worked the program and you tell me that if I do things like you did them, that I'll get clean. Now I have an avenue to live the rest of my life. Like, if I'm an addict, you're an addict. So for me, there was like this great sense of like um, having a path after not having a path for so long,
Yeah.
or having um, having that, because I'm a reasonably intelligent person, but I was not making any sense out of life.
Sure.
and I was in a lot of mental and emotional pain. And I'm coming to meetings and I'm feeling better, and people are telling me that it's possible to get better. So, and that for me, in the very beginning of my recovery, I didn't want to stop using. I just wanted to feel better. And then I realized that that was never going to happen as long as I was in active addiction.
Yeah.
So to have that avenue of like, this is how you don't fuck your life up. This is how, you know, you I never had that manual on how to live life. All right. I mean, having an alcoholic father kind of skewed a lot of things for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so in like he wasn't really a good example to follow. But yeah, no, that's what I think. I think of the freedom to have a fish water episode.
Yes. That's right. Fish water episode. Today, we taste the murky waters of Sir Fishwater's pond. Okay, could you repeat the question, Sir Fishwater?
No, it should be
Bless.
fishing on water.
I inhaled about 3 ounces of it, man. And then I got impaled on a stick. The question was, did you find that you had a sense of relief when you admitted defeat? Like when you finally kind of said, like, I'm at the end of this way of going about things and I'm willing to do whatever it takes.
So one of my favorite things is that analogy. I think it's in the 12 steps and 12 traditions in AA, when they refer to like Japan at the end of World War II, and
Uh,
they're like, the U.S. had dropped one nuclear bomb on Japan, and they were like, okay, well, we'll give up, but we still have this term and this term and this term. And then they drop the next one and they're like, okay, unconditional defeat,
yeah.
and uh, that for me, was the type of surrender that I felt after I hit that hospital and came into the program. So, it was an absolute relief. Like it brought me instant relief from my hamster wheel of Mooresville. Like
Yeah.
that whole percentage of my brain I've spoken about in multi episodes that was on the more, gotta have more, want to use more, gotta make sure there's more for tomorrow. Why don't we have more while we're using him? About to die, let's use more. Like all that little part of my brain was just like the sound of
Yeah.
silence, man. I think it was last episode together where I said that phrase, the speck of silence. But that was
Yes.
my first speck of silence. And so
Yes.
I would call that speck of silence relief.
Yeah.
It was relief from the obsession of my mind that I could control this with my mind. Because
Yeah.
for 17 years, even before I knew the program, I was hell bent on and determined on controlling it. And
No
like
question. Yeah.
and like Mossy said a minute ago, he was talking about, he's like, I was a person of reasonable intellect.
Sure.
I thought I was a really smart person, but what I didn't have was living tools. You could throw a math equation at me. You could show me the plans of a building and I could measure the wood and cut the right angle on the chop saw. Or like, there was a ton of things I learned, but one of them wasn't living right in harmony with the world around me.
Totally.
It was like me versus the world, and I was pitifully losing when I still thought I had a chance in the game.
Well said.
Mm,
And I'm going to leave that one there. So, Sir Fishwater, could you please ask yourself that?
Um, the question came through because um, it was a really good moment to realize like the extent of what I was actually dealing with or where I had arrived, because I knew I had a problem for a really long time. If you lived in my body, you wouldn't have been happy. You couldn't have been. It was too painful. Like it was chronic distress and unease and sickness, because I was sick basically every day from alcoholism, and that came with anxiety, racing mind, cloudy mind, forgetfulness, self-harm, self doubt. Like it was really gnarly. So when I finally realized, like, oh, like you're not having a bad day or a bad week, like this is like this is a real thing that needs to be dealt with, like in a way that's far beyond any previous attempt. I I was fearful, but I was deeply relieved to know that there was a group of people or a person or anything that was going to guide me out of that existence that I had been experiencing for, since I was like a mid teenager, if not earlier. And basically, when I realized that a lot of my fears were based on self-preservation, and when I realized that, like, the admittance of this wrongness or this defeat kind of blew that image out of the water, it's like I can't be both. I'm either someone who's willing to find out who I truly am or what I truly can be, but I'm definitely not what I thought I was. And it was so powerful, like the way that everything unfolded for me, that sort of like they talk about having your ego slammed, or like crack in the light came in, whatever that looks like. But I was like very, very willing to admit that, like, this isn't working, and I was grateful to ask for help. I found myself sleeping better. Anxiety went way down, and then the main thing for me was when I was actually willing to like abstain and start using like the spirituality as the tool to abstain. I immediately was so lucky, because I had been sick for so long that by the time my body had relief, like even more than a week, like I was so grateful to start feeling better,
Mhm.
I,
Yeah.
that starting to sleep better, anxiousness down. I can 100% relate to that. So, Mr. Bayou, would you like to ask me a question?
I'm afraid I'm the questionless wonder today.
Okay.
I wasn't able to come up with anything really solid.
You know
I
what? I've
apologize.
got you covered. I
All
got you
right.
covered. Okay. So I'm going to ask Sir Fishwater a question, and we'll still keep that same ordered direction going. True wisdom is born not from being right, but from the willingness to be wrong and still stay curious. So, Fish, how has embracing your mistakes deepened your understanding of yourself?
Gosh, I never thought I could enjoy. Ice had a power to it, but fish even feels good. I never thought I'd enjoy that.
You're swimming through these steps, man.
Upstream, I'll be honest, I always talk about that like early moment where it was pointed out to me that the key to success was admitting that I was the problem, because that's the actual place where adjustments can be made. As long as it's somebody else that's the problem, then I can't do anything about it. I can try, but we've concluded that that doesn't really work. So I'm down. I'm down. I'm like as down as I could be, and I'm asking for help, and I'm telling people that I'm willing. But when it was pointed out to me, like, you're the problem, like, it was almost like I couldn't bear one more blow to my like sense of self, because I was feeling so badly about my existence. But very soon after that, my guide, like my mentor, had this really great way of pointing out the less attractive stuff, but reinforcing it with positive things as well. So it'd be like a list of things on one side. Have you ever done any of these things? Lying, cheating, judging, whatever they are. And I was like, oh, like, yes, I've done those. But then and in that moment, I like felt really heavy. And then he broke out this other chart, and he said, have you ever done any of these things? And it was like, like being a good friend, being polite, whatever, all these different positive things. And I actually started crying, because I was like, I do that shit all the time. And he's like, exactly. He's like, we're not entirely bad. He's like, we just have to start doing less of this and more of this. And it was like, for the first time ever, I was like, I'm not bad. I've just been lost. You know, like
Mm.
I'm not, this is not a moment to like add any more shame to my life. It's an opportunity to like get honest and maybe make some adjustments so that I don't have to feel this way going forward. And I found that the initial honesty was challenging, but it came with a lot of relief as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's awesome. Okay, Mr. Mossy. True wisdom is born not from being right, but from the willingness to be wrong and still stay curious. How has embracing your mistakes deepened your understanding of yourself?
You know, I can echo what Mr. Water was talking about when it comes to uh there's the expression, you know, where you point or where you point to blame, the power flows, right?
Uh,
So when I realized that I had gotten myself into this mess, that I had the power to get myself out of this mess.
nice.
But it was also acknowledging that I didn't have the knowledge to do it on my own, right?
Oh, nice.
So I needed to become open to suggestions. And then like when one of my first sponsor um was really big on perspective. You know, kind of like what you were talking about, where like you have, you know, our character defects that we beat ourselves up over all the time, but that we do have character assets as well. And that um so I think when I, you know, to learn from your own mistakes is very empowering,
Yeah.
you know, and to and sometimes there's a lot of like unexpected good things that come from stuff. What the saying that comes to my mind is my sponsor used to say, it's hard to realize you're only 6 inches in shit when you're lying face down in it. And so it's about perspective, right? Because like I can look, I'm I'm really good at looking at all the things I'm not doing right or all the problems that I have. And then to get a change of like even so I'm doing separate with my sponsor, and you know there's some stuff that happened that's like that I felt that I came up short. Um,
Oh, yeah.
and he's like, well, you know, that's one perspective, or maybe you're looking at it from the perspective of self-preservation. And it was a situation that you knew if you got into it that some bad shit could happen, right? So it's like, you know, changing perspective. But wisdom from mistakes, I think, is very, very important. I think that um, I think the definition of wisdom is learning from your own mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Because like when I think about trying something new for the first time, or like trying a new hobby or something like that, I
Yeah.
have to give myself permission to suck. I have to
Yeah.
give myself permission to feel to not do well and not live up to. I mean, sure, my expectations might be like sky high, but I have to give myself the willing or the ability to not go sky high and like fuck up a couple times.
Oh, yeah.
You know? So I think that's where I'm coming from.
I really
I love
appreciate
that.
that.
Thank you, Mr. Bayou. Okay, so to myself, true wisdom is born not from being right, but from the willingness to be wrong and still stay curious. How has embracing my mistakes deepened my understanding of myself? Well, I feel.
Resilience. Sorry,
Whoa.
Resiliency. being able to make multiple mistakes and keep going. Sorry, I just had
Yes. No,
to
hey,
say it.
you know what? I'm not butthurt about that. Okay. Like, I'm all like, go for it. That was great. I loved it. Just throw more
Mm.
wisdom out. Keep it coming. No. For myself, I look at that question and I had no curiosity at the end of my addiction. Like, I literally remember thinking to myself, I lost that curiosity. That was
Mhm.
my strongest point growing up. Like, I wanted to learn. And I remember getting to a point of just like fatigue and just like such low endorphins after months of partying and just like, I don't care. Like, I don't care. Like, I didn't care to know. I didn't care. It was like, put me on the like hold warm setting of the crock pot. Because I certainly wasn't cooking up some new ideas, and it was like, so, embracing my mistakes. I mean, geez, isn't that the program in a nutshell? It's
It is.
embracing our mistakes. Uh, you know, I don't think I'd have any understanding of myself unless I embraced my mistakes because I have to turn around and look with honesty and humility just to find out the story.
Yeah, true.
Like I I didn't have the tools or the inclination to look. I didn't want to look too much at all the shit I was causing because it's like Mr. What is that? Mossy B Boots there was saying, he was like, you said before, you're like the program ruined using for me.
Yeah.
And it's
Mhm.
like, I know it would for me. Like, I know that right now, even if I went back, the whole thing I'd be thinking is, look at what I'm doing here. And I would
Mhm.
I would understand my part in that. And I wouldn't be able to be like, oh, I'm using because Bayou had a better point to me and he made me feel real little on the show. And
Thanks,
like
Bayou.
fish water, man, his breath, man, made me feel real inadequate because mine just didn't have little scales stuck in the teeth.
Oh my God.
I was getting a little coy there, but
Oh shit.
but I think for myself, it's just really come to my awareness recently that I'm okay with being wrong and that I'm actually embracing it right now. Like, when not just like when somebody's being like rudely, sarcastically critical in a conversation. That's not the wrong I'm talking about. When somebody's just like belittling me, but when I see what I have done and I now have a correctable path, I am totally curious about that. Endlessly curious about how I can change and make that better. And I feel that, that I want to remain a seeker forever. And
Mhm.
I'm going to leave that there. Sir Fishwater, would you like to ask Mossy another one?
Yeah. So another little quickie here. Do you find that the more time that goes on, or the more experience you get, that you're finding it easier to do step 10 on a daily basis, especially the part about admitting if we were wrong, promptly admitting it? Do you find that that's getting easier?
Yes and no. I'll
Mm.
be the first to admit that I'm not actively doing a step 10 for the last bit of my recovery. And that's pretty much out of laziness. Um, but correcting my behavior has gotten a lot better. Um, like I said the other day, step 10 is a lot easier when you have a wife. Um,
Yeah.
but, but no, but there's a bit of truth there because it's been a long time or if ever I was in a relation. I've never been in a relationship that's serious, so I'm learning to recognize that I can be an asshole even when I'm not thinking about it, and you know what I mean. And so
Hmm.
there's I have an awareness, a stronger awareness of how my actions affect others and my words affect others. especially those close to me. And it's deepened my love for myself as well, because I realized that despite like, because I'm not as arrogant about shit.
Yeah,
Really,
nice.
like it reframes a lot of things. Um, like today, okay, so this is a bit of a tangent, but like today I was at the gym and there's three young kids at the gym and they were playing with some of the they were it's like they were trying some of the machines they've never tried before, but it was
Mhm.
like a game to them.
Yeah,
And my instinct is like they're gonna get hurt, they should get out of the fucking gym. And then my other one is like, these kids are having a blast, right?
hmm
And then I'm like, when did the gym when did that change for me at going to the gym where it was fun and now it's a chore?
sure.
So when it comes to like affecting others, is realizing that my perspective can often use changing.
Sure.
And when I say something stupid to my wife and it hurts her feelings, my
Mhm.
ability to say, I'm sorry I said that, and for whatever reason, like it was just a rude thing to say or something. That's getting a lot easier to both recognize and correct as I have more
Yeah.
practice recognizing and correcting it. So I think that it's a lot easier for me to admit I've been wrong with certain things. Um, it's about practice, right?
Yep.
It's about practicing these principles, and
Nice.
that's as you practice things, you generally get better at them, right?
I agree.
So
I love that.
I know that was a bit of a tangent, but
It wasn't. It
I
was.
don't think so.
I think. Well, we could call it a bayouism. It's like sometimes you got to get on that fan boat and ride through the bayou at full speed. That's the only way you can feel that mossy breeze. Okay, Sir Fish, would you repeat the question?
As time goes on, do you find that doing your step 10, especially the part about when we were wrong, promptly admitted it, is that getting easier for you?
Okay, so I'll go on my little tangent now because I got a tangent about this. I've been listening to a lot of speaker tapes over the last few days just because I was doing some driving and some introspective moments in that for work.
Yep.
And I'm listening to this lady who's talking about step 10 and 11 and 12. Like it's kind of like a two hour thing that, and so I'm feeling like right now I'm getting like a calling to really start doing a written step 10 every day again. Like
Nice.
they start you doing that in options. And I was doing it for a bit. And now it's kind of more like a slight review, but it's not like a defined thing, you know?
Mm.
Um, and so like, um, this lady has a little piece of post-it note in her bathroom. So when she goes to brush her teeth at the end of the day and it's SDIF, right? And it's like, selfish, dishonest, inconsiderate, and what's the F? Oh, anyway. But anyway, it just reminds her to do her step 10 before she goes down and settles down for the night. Because she doesn't do it in
Nice.
bed. She wants to, for her, it's like if you just leave it to the end of the day, you'll always be tired and you'll obviously probably do less of it. So for her, it's just
Totally.
right at that point when she's kind of settling down for the day. And so it's something I want to fire back up, but the part of your question about finding it easier to make those amends immediately,
Yeah.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
like, even my wife has acknowledged, like, I'm rarely more than an hour and a half in the dick zone.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah, like, like I might be angry about something. I might act like a turd, but I might go walk the dogs and come back and be like, or just even just message my apology and acknowledge it. Like, I'll do it like I would do an amends, like
hmm
from like the full amends. I'll say what I did wrong, what I should have done, and how I can change that. Like that's how I try to go into it. Because
That's
otherwise you'll get a half an hour of rationalization out of me. Like I gotta keep that framework, or all of a sudden it's like their fault again.
yeah.
Like where I'm like, oh, but by the way, actually, when I come to think about this after a while, it's still you.
Oh Lord.
But that's so if I stick to that framework, it keeps me from doing that. So yeah, and what about you, Sir Water? Or should we
Um,
say Swatter?
so I would say it has two things to it. The answer is yes. Um, I now know when I'm living out of fear. I know when I'm being dishonest for sure, like
Mhm.
fucking perfectly clear. Maybe the odd time I don't, if I'm being less honest about my own, like dishonest with myself, but I know when I'm being dishonest with others. Um, the thing that stood out when I was thinking about this is that like I pick weeds immediately when they grow in my garden. Like if I know that I was rude to someone, like I will call that person. I have no trouble admitting when I'm wrong now. I try not to do things that are so terrifying if I have to face the consequence that I like actually feel so scared that I can't do an amend or promptly admit it. Like I really try my best to not create things that are that terrifying anymore so that I can get it out of the way and also relieve that other person maybe of some discomfort or misunderstanding. I would not say for 1 second that I'm presenting myself as some sort of perfectionist at step 10, but I will say that the only thing that's sticky for me is I get caught up in the perfectionism in the sense that when I do make the mistakes, I beat myself up for that more now because I've been practicing it. So I'm like, oh, like, when are you going to stop doing that? Or like, I can't believe you did that. Or like, so the more that time passes, the more I find myself judging my lack of not doing things. um, or if I was to do something that I feel I could have done better. So that's hard, but admitting it's not is hard. So it comes with two different things. Um, I also really am lucky. Like I have three different people I call mentors, and they always want to chat if something comes up. And I'm really blessed to have people that I can like be like, am I on the right track here, or like, do I
Mhm.
need to say something to this person? I'll be like, yeah, that was probably a little insensitive. I'm like, and then I'll do it. Or no, like that person was inconsiderate of your boundaries or something, and I'm like, okay, good, because I knew I was feeling a little upset. Like I'm not gonna like ruin the week over it, but that did hurt my feelings or whatever, like still vulnerable to hurt feelings. So I'm really lucky to have good people in my life to chat with as well when I'm unsure of what that looks like. So progress, but not perfection for sure.
I love that. It's great. Um, you know, I just had the idea. Like, I would be interested. Like, I have a few couple things that I do a gratitude list on with people, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to have a step 10, like just a couple guys, where it's like try for 1 month to do it every day. Just
Well,
like,
you're supposed to.
well, I'm just saying though, like actually written down,
Yeah, yeah. That'd be
like
rad if everybody was willing to be that honest. Like I was full of fear, dishonest, and I whatever, it would probably help
that
everybody
was
a
the
lot.
F. The F is fear.
Yeah, yeah. It would
Yeah.
probably be really helpful to see people being that honest and vulnerable about their day. It's
Well,
easy
I
to
would
say
do it. I would do it if either of you guys want to do it.
well, let's put it
I'm
this way. Gratitude list is nice to share. It gives people inspiration, but it's really easy to say like I love my dog, my new job and like the meetings and it's like but imagine at the opposite end being like I swore at my wife, I was impatient with my daughter and I forgot to walk my dog. It's like
Whoa, I never forget to walk my dog
I'm
ever.
telling you, man.
I do it, man. You want to do it, Milan? Let's do
Yeah,
it.
I'll do it. Yeah, let's do it. Like, I took a couple from when I left options, but they have like a daily personal inventory. It's like a really quick little sheet.
Oh
I'll
yeah.
Mm,
I'll scan it and I'll send it to you.
Okay.
might be a really healthy thing.
Yeah, are you in fish?
I'll do my best.
Or you could just commit. like, like, like
I will. I will participate. Yes.
okay, cool. Okay, my next question to ask Sir Water is every time we admit we were wrong, we carve a new path where growth and grace can walk together. Um, can you recall a moment where admitting fault opened a new opportunity for connection?
Oh my gosh. Constantly. Um, if I was to, I had a breakthrough yesterday with my father. Like these things do happen if you're willing to work for them. Like, I don't feel comfortable sharing all the details, but like essentially,
Oh no, we want the details. The whole audience. Come on.
I'll tell you another one, but not this one. It's too
No,
beautiful. Um,
we
too
want the
sacred.
most beautiful.
It's too sacred. Um,
I'm just teasing.
I think that I think that one of the blessings that people do get if they're close to us watching us go through this is watching us admit where we were wrong. I think it gives other people courage to do it because I think as human beings, we spend a great deal of our lives trying to look better than we actually are. And, we're all doing that to one another. And we're like, well, shit, like so and so is doing this and they've never done that and blah, blah, blah. And then sometimes our vulnerability gives other people the opportunity to confide in us and or share some of their weaknesses. And it's such a nice thing. I feel like we have an opportunity to see a different side of people once we admit that sort of stuff. Um, okay, admitting I was wrong. I don't know. I do it all the time with my mom and my sisters. I've done it with some friends. Um, what I find funny is when you go to someone thinking you knew what was wrong, and then they're like, "No, that didn't bother me at all. It was this," and you're like, "Oh, jeez." But um, you know,
It's
the
quite
willingness
often
to
that,
be wrong.
actually.
Sorry.
It's quite often that I find. Like
Yeah,
what I thought was offensive would have offended me, but they're actually pissed off at some other total aspect of it.
could be. And I don't know. What did I do? Um, I don't know. Like making amends with some of my employers was pretty powerful, and they were like, I had the same problem, but just because I was the boss, it like was well disguised. Like just really interesting moments where you're like, like what a gift. And I've been told amazing stories where people have admitted they were wrong and had amazing amazing turnouts. But obviously they don't always go that way. I'm trying to think of anything recently where admitting I was wrong. I feel like I maybe need to calm down on admitting I'm wrong. But yeah, I don't know. I think in my own way, I've had some really nice moments. Yeah.
Okay, Miss Baron von Bayou. Um, every time we admit we were wrong, we carve a new path where growth and grace can walk together. Can you
Mhm.
recall a moment where admitting fault opened a new opportunity for connection?
Yes. Yes, I can.
Okay,
I
would you
have,
like to expand on that?
so the two things that come immediately to mind are amends that I made to my mom and to my dad. So, um, like I meant, I think with my dad is a bit more apt, but remember he's an alcoholic, practicing alcoholic for most of my life, and when I would have been in my early 20s, and he was very ill. So I was in New Brunswick and he was in Red Deer, Alberta, and he was not doing very well physically and mentally. Very sick from alcohol abuse, and they weren't sure if he was going to make it out of his situation alive. So I was like, you know what, fuck, I gotta see him and try to bury the hatchet. And there's an opportunity to live in his condo while he was in the hospital and take care of things for him. So take care of his estate and stuff. So that's what I did. I moved out here, and it wasn't um it wasn't too long until we were able to have a conversation about the shit that he did and the shit that I did, and we were able to bury the hatchet. So by admitting my wrongs, like, because that's it gets messy, right? With people where yes, my behavior was inappropriate and it harmed them, emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, but they're not entirely innocent either, right? So
That's true.
so being able to just, and I think the program is really good at this, but being just to focus on the things that I did. Um, I remember
Yeah.
I when I was going, so I wrote him a letter, and in my letter it was me forgiving him for the wrongs that he had done to me, and I shared it with a friend in recovery, and they were like, why don't you write a letter about asking forgiveness for the things that you did? And it really changed my perspective, and I was able to really
Mm.
look at the shit that I did. And that letter was probably a turning point in the relationship with my dad, where okay, now we're two grown men. I'm clean. He's sober. Um, let's develop a relationship. And I was able to have a relationship with my dad during the last for a number of years, and I was also able to be there, support him while he was in a nursing home and uh, taking care of stuff like that. So
Amazing.
I love that.
Thanks for sharing that, man.
That was beautiful, Mr. Boots. Um, every time we admit we were wrong, we carve a new path where growth and grace can walk together. Can you recall a moment where admitting fault opened a new opportunity for connection? Well, I certainly can. Like, right now, the example that comes to my mind is just in the last couple months, a conversation I had with my daughter. And like I always say, like I'm like the younger brother, I'm the bugger. I'm like always like I was incorrectly thinking gaslighting was the term, which she pointed out. So I admitted I was wrong about what that was, but it was like I would say stuff just to kind of bug her, like a younger brother, and not necessarily mean stuff, but just stuff that would like make a relaxing situation a little bit tense or something. And I realized how unhealthy that was for like her serenity and her peace of mind. And so I apologized to her, and she was kind of surprised when I came to her with that one, and not like, oh, Dad, you never do that, surprise, but just surprised that I would finally talk about it or whatever. And it did open up a situation where her and I kind of got to unpack that, and I got to tell her where I saw it now as not being a healthy thing, and that it was something I wanted to change, and I might not change it perfectly, but I'm willing to talk about it while it's happening now, and just
mm,
try to move forward in that direction, because I just see it as an unhealthy part of my character that I'm striving to make different. And so it changed things with us in that moment. I was really happy that I went forward and did that, and I want to kind of bring that into like all my relationships. I don't think it's a positive character trait. I used to think it was funny, and I don't think it's funny now. It's like
That's
now
cool.
too. It's like a lot of sarcasm. I don't see as healthy.
Yeah.
mhm,
Because I think that inside that sarcasm is a little bit of a reality of an insult that people don't really like. It doesn't make someone feel good about themselves
Well said.
afterwards, and I want to shy away from that. I don't want to be a source of negative self-talk for somebody. you know?
Yeah.
Like, not
Mhm.
everybody is going to be the island of strength and be like impervious to everybody's words. Like the way we talk, it's like that kind of the whole Dharma recovery thing and the mindfulness,
Mhm.
like being mindfulness wouldn't have sarcasm as part of it.
Mhm.
For sure it wouldn't. And
Mhm.
I just see that as something that I'm desiring to participate less in or not at all for my life. And
I think that's awesome.
yeah. So I'm
I
gonna
like
leave
that.
that
I
one
like that.
there. What's that, Mr. Bayou?
So I like that. I think there's. I think. I think humor in general. When I have a good friend, and he says that humor is one of the more intimate things we can share with each other,
Yeah.
especially in meetings, in the context of meetings. And I think you're right about sarcasm. There's a cynicism to that, and there's a like a touch of maliciousness if it's done a certain way. And I agree.
Sure.
I think
It's almost always got a negative root, sarcasm.
yeah.
Like the Slovak culture that my family had growing up, it was puns. Pun was the humor source. The first time I saw Monty Python, I swear to God, I didn't understand it at all. The first time I
Hmm.
went to my British friend's place for supper, I left crying because I thought his dad hated me because I did not understand sarcasm. And my
Oh
friend
wow.
and my friend was like, "What's going on? Like you're his favorite." I was like, "Oh, the favorite gets like ripped apart
Oh,
at dinner." Like I was like grade 4 or 3, and like it went right over my head and just made me scared and think he hated me. And
Hmm.
fair enough.
so, Wrightsmore, do you have another question for Mossy?
I have one question left.
Okay, I got it. I got questions.
My
It, it,
last question was, having admitted that you have come to discover your own defects, becoming aware of them, being open about them, willing to hopefully get some help getting rid of them. Does it make it easier when others now point out your like if someone was to point out the defect and or if somebody was to say criticize and or call you out on something, is that getting easier now that you've admitted them yourself? Do you find that maybe you can handle that a bit more maturely and or in a better, more healthy way?
Hmm. I think so. One second. Came up with a question for you guys.
Ooh,
okay, you got to
So
write that down though. We got to answer Mr. Wrightsmore's.
yeah, I wrote. So yeah, so uh, yes. So I think that when having come to acknowledge, have a better understanding of the things I do that are necessarily, I guess, wrong, or the darker side of my interactions with others, I guess. Um,
mm-hmm.
so there's definitely less. I guess there's still an emotional response, but it's less anger and more frustration,
Sure.
right? Because I don't. There's a few things. One, it means that I still carry the defect, and that's an interesting spot to be in because I've learned that I can't get rid of my defects. That I have to pray about it, and I can be frustrating at times when I would like for them to be removed
Mm-hmm.
immediately and never come back ever again,
Yeah, yeah.
right? But I think that I think I'm more secure in who I am as a person,
Nice.
so I'm able to more recognize, or like when somebody points out that I'm fucking up, it's less like justification and rationalization of my actions, and it's
Mm.
more frustration that it happened, and I can recognize it in myself.
Nice.
So it's a lot easier to say sorry. It's a lot easier to accept that I've done this thing that was not good and to move forward. And I think that that's, like, um and I think there's a part of it is, I used to think my defects got removed because I didn't like them, but my defects get removed so I can be of better service to others.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
so that's like that's I think that's the focus that I carry. And that's why it's frustration and not anger. 'Cause it's not like
Nice.
I'm not even gonna get angry at God for not removing a defect when it's chances are he removed it and I took it back anyway. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's my answer.
I love that. Could
Lovely.
you please repeat the question, Wrightsmore?
Yeah. So, having admitted yourself or discovering through the process of self discovery your defects is a little easier now if, say, it is brought to your attention by someone else, like, hey, you're doing this, or I notice you're like that. Are you a bit better at like taking that in a more healthy way now?
Absolutely. And like I don't think I used to be able to laugh at myself very well.
Mm,
Sure.
And I find
Yeah.
myself
yeah, yeah.
laughing. I find myself laughing at things like I'm like, oh shit, here we go, And even some of the ways that I'll name myself on this show, like when I call myself Barry Blamelito or whatever,
Yeah.
like there's that would have been like my worst kept secret that I did that before, and I
Sure.
wouldn't have wanted to talk about it. And it's not always easy though. Sometimes I might have to walk away for a bit and think about what you said in order to have that admission about it. And
Yeah.
that's just like a hangover of me through life is that I might not agree with you mid argument about something, but I will definitely go and replay that over and over in my head, and I can assimilate change, admit I'm wrong, and also admit like if it's me, like I can be Barry blame me Alito, just Alito, you know.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like
O-
that though.
Okay, Mr. Boom Boom Bayou. Woo! I love that. Mr. Boom Boom Bayou. God damn it. You know what? Boom Boom could be your name forever.
Beautiful name.
Okay, Boom Boom, you got a question for me?
I
Boom
do.
Boom.
So, so one of the questions that or sayings that got to me early in my recovery was that doubt justifies faith. So have you ever been wrong in such a way that it actually justified or strengthened your faith in a higher power or your program?
Don't justify faith.
Yes. And like for me, it's been a real journey of coming to believe and coming to discover what I believe.
Hmm.
And, I realized how desperately I needed the program once I first got my toe in the door. And at that point, I was like, okay, whatever the fuck, like whatever resistance I have, I've got to let this go at all
Hmm.
costs because I need to stay alive. Like,
Hmm.
Yeah.
there's just some people that, like, I just, for me, it was like a life or death thing at that point. And so it was, I've mentioned it before, just my whole resistance to the religious version of God. And now, that doubt got me to cycle on like, A, am I in the right program? B, am I just practicing dishonesty here? And then C, you know, what do I really believe? And
Mm.
it's gone around a lot, but I've been like that doubt has really got me to say, okay, I'm just going to try some things. I'm going to try some things, even if initially I am just doing the action, to give it a try.
Hmm.
And and probably like my first form of prayer that really worked was that praying for somebody I was in conflict with for two
Mm-hmm.
weeks. Like that was like a game changer. And I'm like, okay, well, there's something here. And then, kind of retrospectively also acknowledging my previous way I used to write affirmations as some form of prayer, and that I had
Mm-hmm.
had results from that. And then quite recently, it's moved to like trying to express gratitude for everything, like
Mm-hmm.
where good, bad, ugly, and having that in my prayers as I'm doing it. And so that really has that lack of understanding or whatever is, but taking the action, man, I've had some real nothing short of miracle results the last few weeks
Beautiful.
in inside my brain and in the external world. And so like right now my faithometer's at an all-time high,
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
going
Nice.
from from some tough points over the winter. So yeah, boom boom, I love your question, and man, I'll meet you in the bayou any day, Mr. Boom Boom. Mr. Sir Wrongless.
I need a quick little seed planted there, Mr. Bayou.
All right. So the expression that he touched me earlier in recovery was that doubt justifies faith. So
Yeah.
if you experienced maybe a wrong or a mistake that has in turn strengthened the faith that you have in your higher.
Gosh. Oh Lord. So I don't know. I think I've tried to share like how that whole idea of like exercising non-judgment or like open-mindedness to the path others take, like if all that hardship and all those consequences led to my to like becoming open-minded to the powerlessness or the unmanageability. I used to like always wish things were different in relationships and with different people and things, and it's like kind of coming to terms with the fact that everybody's on, they're either going up or down in some area of their life, and I shouldn't be the judge of which direction that's heading. um Wrongdoing. Yeah, I think like basically I came to terms with that, all that was necessary, and then I became grateful for the path because of the teaching. I spoke to my sponsor last night. This guy's had tremendous health problems and all kinds of horrible things happen, and he's like, I've never been in a better place spiritually than I am now. And he's like, and I'm so grateful for what I've learned because I wouldn't have learned it if it wasn't for those things. And I'm like, oh my god, because like some of it's really terrible stuff, and he's grateful for it. So I'm hoping to be like him down the road and continue the way I've felt it in the past, where I was actually grateful for those less comfortable times. I don't like it. Like I'm kind of good. I'd like a nice season of a little bit smoother circumstances, but I'm really starting to nuzzle into the value of that kind of like, the agitation seems to teach us a lot. So I'll just leave it at that.
Mm, cool.
Yeah.
And boom boom, you gonna answer your own question?
I will. So two things came to mind when you guys were talking, and one of them is that um, you can't cherry pick what you're grateful for, right? You can't. You've got to. I've learned that um, it's funny. I was just thinking about a quote I heard yesterday or remembered about yesterday. And it's who controls the past or who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present now controls the past. That's actually a Rage Against the Machine song lyric. And it's talking about politics. But I think it's very apt to be talking about ourselves or individually. Because I think that the cherry picking of stuff, and I used to be really bad for that. Yeah, it's actually occurred a bit in this last week where I find myself daydreaming and I find myself wondering, like, I wonder if this would have played out differently in my life, where I would be now, or would I be different now? And kind of like that
Yes.
vacational escapism that my mind wanders to sometimes. And I struggled with that for a long time because, well, I think when I was early in recovery and dealing with psychosis a lot, um, it was hard for me to do step two, and it was hard for me to feel grateful about stuff. And one of the expressions that really helped me is the idea that uh, just because things could have been different doesn't mean they would have been better.
Oh.
Ooh, boom, boom. Bayou.
Give me a minute. Ooh, Lord.
Because when I started taking that perspective, uh, the present was a lot easier to deal with, a lot
Well
easier.
said.
And if I'm grateful for today, like if I can exercise gratitude for my life today, then I have to have gratitude for the path that brought me here.
That's right. Yeah.
So, and the reason I think doubt justifies faith for me is because if my faith can't hold up to doubt, then I shouldn't be believing it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
For faith. Okay. But what if your faith just isn't strong enough yet?
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from.
I'm just like I'm playing devil's advocate because I love you, boo boo.
Um, I think though, I think that like, yeah, I think that there's just there's a there's a I read that there's sometimes you'll be in positions where your doubt may be greater than your faith.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like that point. It's good. I'll be thinking about that one.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so we're gonna now go into a massive lightning round.
Lightning.
Everybody, you ready to be shocked with the answers?
Yeah.
Okay, Sir Wrongless. Here we go. First round. Learning through error teaches the heart humility, and in humility, joy finds its truest home. How has humility made your recovery journey richer and more joyful?
I would say I think other than honesty, that's my most favorite idea. I think that when I really understood the depth and the possibility and the potential there, what I looked at it is like, so if we talk about God or higher power or, the intelligence of all things, it seems that the corrections that are made to us are all for our best interest. So that means that like all this hardship and like all this learning, it's because the soul or whatever's like functioning underneath this, it knows what's actually of the highest value. So being wrong or being corrected or disciplined is actually love. It is
Hmm.
love. It just feels like shit when you are that insecure and vulnerable.
I loved that. Okay, Mr. Boom Boom. Learning through error teaches the heart humility, and in humility, joy finds its truest home. How has humility made your recovery journey richer and more joyful?
Well, I think that humility and pride are kind of opposite, right?
Mm.
Or at least opposed to each other in some way. So humility for me was really big for coming to understand that I'm not some sort of uh, terrible monster that can never get recovery, and I'm
Mm.
not like this goody two shoes who's better than recovery and doesn't need it, and then I'm somewhere in the middle. Like I can, it allows me to walk into a room of addicts and be able to be another addict, just another addict, right? It doesn't. It doesn't matter what or how much I used and what status I had in the criminal underworld or anything like that, right? Like how many times I've been to the pen. All that kind of stuff doesn't really fucking matter anymore. It's just more about being present.
Mm.
Ah, I love that. Okay. Learning through error teaches the heart humility, and in humility, joy finds its truest home. How has humility made my recovery journey richer and more joyful? Well, it's made it richer just by the fact of actually starting to understand myself without
Uh-huh.
without making like a delusional emotional reaction that just was more using. Like it's allowed me to actually start chipping away at the ego for the first time ever because I was a specialist in self-centered action. And without the honesty and humility to finally be pulling my part out of things, I would have no avenue for change. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's made my life richer because I'm getting to know it myself, and it's made it more joyful because I'm actually starting to become somebody I love.
Wonderful.
Nice.
Okay. Um, to be wrong is not to fail, but to discover one more beautiful way the world is greater. Oh, to discover one more beautiful way the world is greater than our own understanding. Question, writes Moore, what recent lesson surprised you with a deeper truth than you expected?
I wrote down what you said there. So can you just the very last sentence? Can you say it again?
Yes. What recent lesson surprised you with a deeper truth than you expected?
Oh gosh. So for me, it's been about forgiveness. Um, I don't know. I haven't eaten the fruit yet, but it's like this whole thing about like being vulnerable and putting yourself in a situation where you can be hurt by someone, but to not take the opportunity would be to live a life that's not worth living to me. So sometimes giving everything you got to something, um, and the outcome doesn't happen the way you hoped. The ability to extend forgiveness, but also like not consider that you maybe should have tried to avoid that opportunity altogether. It's sort of like again more acceptance, but forgiveness and acceptance.
Boom. Okay, boom, boom. To be wrong is not to fail, but to discover one more beautiful way the world is greater than our own understanding. What recent lesson, Boom Boom, surprised you with a deeper truth than you expected? Boom Boom.
So what I think of a couple of weeks ago I started going to the gym again, trying to do. I have a lot of reasons to go. And while I was in there, I was doing cardio, and I hate cardio. I've never liked it. To me, if I'm running, it's because someone is punishing me by making me run. That's always been my mentality. Uh, but anyway, so I was doing cardio. I was on the recumbent cycle, and I was able to cycle for like half an hour, which is just unheard of for me. And I was able to do it and be healthy, and that translated into my schoolwork because I'm at a point where I'm kind of relearning a bit about being a student. I'm going to go over time.
That's
Um,
all right.
but anyway, my ability to push myself in the gym and do things that I'm not necessarily comfortable doing all the time
Yeah,
translated into an ability to study for longer periods of time and push myself in my studies the way I would push myself in the gym.
nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, for me, what recent lesson surprised me with a deeper truth than I expected? Well, it's kind of, I'm going to go back to it, but it's that rediscovery with surrender. Like, the recommendation of the Harry God box by Wrightsmore. That was like the beginning of of me starting to surrender in my day. And then, having Tom on, surrender came at me from a whole bunch of ways. And what it's
Nice.
brought is just a lot more release, a lot more like, I would like to say release and peace, you know, release for the peace is,
That's pretty dope.
and so for myself, I forgot to start the timer, but I'll just wrap up with this is that just like with my addiction, I'm getting a lot more mental space back
Mm.
by not thinking about my defects. Like they're not my journey
Process,
to think about.
processing power.
Yeah, that's right. My RAM has greater ramifications.
There you go.
Huh.
Okay, Sir Wrongless. When we stop fearing mistakes, we begin living in the fearless freedom of infinite learning. What one mistake you made that looking back you're grateful for?
Oh man. Oh my gosh.
Let's dig
Um,
in the dirt and play with the mud.
Mistake that I made. Well, um, oh man, I
Woo!
don't really know.
Pick off that scab and let the pus run.
Well, so I guess right before, right before, right before I got sober, I did something that it made people that care about me question my integrity. And they told me that. And it was so mortifying to me that it motivated me to change my life and hopefully never ever repeat something like that ever again. That's all I got for you.
Okay. You've
Yeah.
alluded to that before. Someday we'll get the real story, folks.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, Boom, boom. When we stop fearing mistakes, we begin living in the fearless freedom of infinite learning. What is one mistake that you made looking back you're grateful for?
Man, this is a tough question.
It sure is.
We don't ask easy
If
ones on here.
if if it made something great happen, was it really a mistake?
Say one more time.
Is it if it was something to be grateful for, was it really a mistake?
Good point.
Well, see, that really is temporal in response.
Oh, okay. Um,
For your reaction to it does create the effect at different points in time.
mhm. Simultaneity.
Huh?
I said simultaneity.
Woo! Okay.
I can't. I'm not sure I got an answer.
Okay. Okay.
Um, I'm kind of stumped by that one.
You can
I
think about
think
it and come back to
Milan's
it.
basically trying to step five us online here.
I, you can take it as you want it. Okay, so one mistake that I made looking back that I'm grateful for is making up this question.
Whoa! Hey, no, it's
Because
going so well.
it certainly caused discomfort, and I was told by my sponsor that discomfort is growth. So I see you guys
Ooh.
growing like trees in front of my very eyes, and I'm gonna
Mhm.
leave that one there. Okay, so in every moment of being wrong, the soul is invited to dance with new possibility rather than to cling to old certainty. Writes more. What possibilities have unfolded for you because you chose to stay open?
So I think one of the greatest things that have changed for me is that like now that this has been exposed and I have the insights, like my motives have changed completely. Like where I put my energy, who I hang with, what I consider success to be, what I'm willing to do for other people, when I'm willing to put my own time aside, when I've learned to be selfish and for my own health. Like all my motives have changed. I used to get torn in so many different directions trying to make other people happy and like burned myself out trying to make money and like neglected physical issues to like make money and like all these weird things. So I'd say just a greater appreciation for my limitations and then knowing where to direct that energy because I now know my limitations, but also just generally what I'm motivated by. And I think it's in a much healthier way.
I love that. Okay,
Mm.
boom, boom. What possibilities have unfolded for you because you chose to stay open?
Uh, many, many opportunities that I have today in life I live. The one that I think is probably the biggest linchpin to my recovery is admitting that I was wrong about how I was taking care of my mental health, and admitting that I didn't have the answers, and admitting that maybe the people in the medical profession actually had some good ideas, and
Mm-hmm.
by implementing their suggestions, and by implementing um, you know by practicing the principles of NA into my affairs of mental health, that I was able to recover significantly, and today it's even in a bit of remission, kind of. So that's what I would say.
I
Nice.
love that, and I love that you know that you share on that a lot because I don't think you're alone in that. And I think we're not only getting the message of recovery out there, but you're also saying, hey, look at this. This
Hmm.
like things have changed for me on multiple levels, and I
Yeah.
think that's some freedom rising in you that I love about you, Scotty, every
Thank you.
time. Okay, what possibilities have unfolded for me because I chose to stay open? You know, well, one that comes to my mind right now is just that I actually changed home groups yesterday for
Nice.
my AA group, and what I realized, like I really love the Monday Night Beginners in Kelowna. That was my group for AA. I have a AA one and I have an NA one, and what happened was is I went to my first roundup this weekend, which was like,
Mm.
woo. You know what? You know
Yeah.
what I realized at roundups? The people who go to roundups are the guys like us and the ladies like us who want to talk recovery. Like
Hmm.
that's one of the beautiful things about going to a roundup is that you're in a room with a bunch of people who are interested. Anyway, my point was being is that
Mm-hmm.
instead of just hanging on to my old home group, I realized that in order for my recovery to grow with a local community that I can spend time with every day if I wanted to, I needed a local home group and I had to change groups in order to continue growing. And I'm going to leave that one there on that.
That's great.
Okay, so learning is not a destination, but a sacred, lifelong unfolding, each misstep another petal in the blooming of wisdom, writes Moore. How can you celebrate your ongoing growth today, even if it's imperfect?
It isn't perfect, and it sure is, my friend. It is so gnarly, and I I am sinking into uncharted territory spiritually. I am letting go on a deeper level, and it feels bizarre. The silence is intimidating. The lack of uh, guaranteed outcome is mind baffling. But I've learned enough to know that I have survived many seasons where I've done anything and everything to weed that garden and get away from the possible stressors or the potential harms. I've lived hyper vigilant. I've done, like, you know, just tried everything to be more responsible, more mature, and I'm free falling into knowing, trusting that that's happening naturally now, and being little less hyper vigilant and trusting that there's a new season coming, and it's okay if I don't know what it looks like yet.
Mm.
I love that. Okay, learning is not a destination, but a sacred, lifelong unfolding. Each misstep, another petal in the blooming of your wisdom, boom, boom. How can you celebrate your ongoing growth today, even if it's imperfect?
Oh man.
Mm. Whether or not I can use it to help others.
To help others.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah.
One of the things I feel like service to other humans is a very, very important thing. I don't think it has to be limited to within the 12-step groups.
Mhm.
Yeah, no doubt.
Um, I came across a word the other day, meliorism, I think it's called, and it's the belief that uh, every act of good, no matter how small, can have a positive impact on the world.
What's the word?
I think it was meliorism. Let me try to find it on. I'll Google it.
Sorry.
No, I should remember the word. It's big.
I'd love to know it. Yeah.
That's it for.
I'll just wait for you to find it. You no?
Yeah, it's meliorism. M
Spell it.
E L Meliorism. The belief that the world can be made better by human effort.
I love that.
Wow, I've never heard that word. Woo!
I'm gonna call us meliorists.
Yes.
My name's Mikey Meliorist.
Get it going. Call me.
Okay, so how can I celebrate my ongoing growth today, even if it's imperfect? My first sponsor always said gratitude's an action.
Mhm.
And you know, the two things that question makes me think of is number one, keep doing what I'm doing.
Nice.
My actions and my open-mindedness and willingness in the program has provided my growth. So to just be like, hey, I'm happy where I'm at and not do more, that's not showing gratitude for it. And then also, boom, having sponsees, going to meetings, sharing for the newcomer, doing whatever service I can inside stuff. Service is the secret sauce to life. And I'm
Mhm.
going to leave
Big
it there
man.
because I didn't start the timer, but I've got some more questions. We're just going to go for another. You guys got another 15, right?
I have about 8 minutes.
Okay, well then, open your ears and close your mouth. Being wrong is not the end of wisdom, of knowledge, but the beginning of a deeper, more compassionate wisdom. How has being wrong helped you be more compassionate towards others? Writes more.
I think it's the only reason that I even became willing, to be honest. It just showed me how much I needed help, and it made me realize the beauty in needing to pass that on. That's all I have to say.
Okay, I love that. And now, boom, boom. How has being wrong helped you become more compassionate toward others?
It's taught me how to meet people where they're at, not as where I would like them to be. That I
Well
can
Mm-hmm.
said.
have, if I can have a bit of humility for myself, then I am in a position to meet others with their flaws and not, use them against them, kind of thing.
Well said.
Well said. And for myself, how has being wrong helped me become more compassionate towards others? Well, first of all, the awareness of where I'm being wrong has shown me I'm much more imperfect than I used to think I was. Like
Mhm.
I thought I was hit, I was lost in the delusions. And so this journey of trying to get self acceptance, even when I'm seeing more parts of me being wrong than any point in my whole life, has been this journey of self-acceptance. And and the only way to burst from self-acceptance to acceptance of you is to have forgiveness in there. And
Yeah.
so it's been that journey of starting to accept my imperfections, which then I'm seeking forgiveness for you for my actions, which means I have to reciprocate that forgiveness.
Well said.
It's just mathematically in my mind. Okay, the beauty of learning lies in realizing that not knowing everything makes room for endless discovery. What is something new you've discovered recently because you stayed teachable? Writes more. Writes more.
Um, I think that the biggest lesson I'm learning is that everything is vulnerable to change, and that these earthly perceptions of what success and like, oh man, like these kind of, I guess what I would say is being willing to let go of what I thought I would be doing at any specific time in my life, and open minded to, like you said, the being willing to endlessly learn. I would say, just to garnish that, it's everything is temporary. So if you find yourself with less than you thought you'd have or not quite sure where to go next, open your heart.
Love that. Okay, Boom Boom, what is something new you've discovered recently because you stayed teachable?
That no matter what, your life can get better. It doesn't
Ooh,
matter if it doesn't matter if your life is good, it can get better, and if it doesn't matter if your life is shit, it can get better. And that for myself to keep raising that bar of expectations. If I can meet that bar of expectation, then raise it up.
I love that. Okay, and what is something I've discovered recently because I stayed teachable? Well, I'm gonna talk about that, finding that gratitude in everything, and implementing that gratitude for what I don't have into my prayer. It has changed my connection with prayer, and it has changed my connection with the day as a whole, every single day. And I'm going to leave that one there. And I will say, when pride falls away, heart grows wings. And every mistake becomes a chance to soar higher. Right, S'more? In what way has letting go of pride allow you to fly freer in your recovery?
I think it's helped me with my relationships. I think that it's yeah, being like Mr. Bayou said, he said we meet people where they're at. I think that that's a much better approach. It alleviates the opportunity to be disappointed or find yourself back in self-will. I also think it gives us, a much more honest opportunity to discover ourselves and each other. That's that's what seems to come forward. Yeah.
I love that. And okay, Boom Boom. In what way has letting go of pride allowed you to fly freer in your recovery?
I think the most telling part of that for me right now is how I deal with my clean time. And there's times when I go to meetings and I'll have the most clean time at the meeting, or I'll have more clean time at the meeting than everybody else combined. And my ego and pride like to take that and run with it and be like, I'm an elder statesman of Narcotics Anonymous. But I'm not. I'm just another addict looking to stay clean one more day.
Yes, sir.
You would look good in the Dixie Jazz outfit as the elder statesman, especially with the tuba. Okay, in what ways has letting go of pride allowed me to fly freer in my recovery? It's just allowed me to be happier being wrong, and
Mhm.
I think for myself, like that, the whole topic of this podcast, I picked it because I really am feeling happiness in my learning progress,
Mhm.
and I'm okay. I'm okay with being wrong like I never was. Okay, I'm going to ask one last question here. Every error is a seed planted in the soil of experience, blossoming later into understanding. What mistake are you now beginning to see as a blessing in disguise, Mr. Wrongless?
I would just say generally alcoholism. You could call that a mistake. I don't know exactly how it manifested in me, but that has become a blessing. Like I think that overall, like if I'm able to be conscious of the end of my life, like if I'm lucky enough to be aware that my life is coming to an end, I will look back on the prior to alcoholism, the during,
Mhm.
and then the after as like a wildly beneficial and blessed part of my life that could very easily be considered a horrible part of it.
100% agree.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wrightsmore. Now, Boom Boom. What mistake are you now beginning to see as a blessing in disguise?
So I'm gonna second what Wrightsmore said and just say my addiction that I think using for the first time wasn't a good idea.
Right.
But
more.
for myself, I don't think I'd ever have found God if it wasn't for Narcotics Anonymous.
Whoa.
So
Yeah,
yeah, so that's a blessing.
I love
That's
that.
incredible.
Okay, and what mistake am I now beginning to see as a blessing in disguise? Well, you guys both hit two nails on the head. That 100%. I do see my addiction as this because I never would have gotten these tools of recovery. But I also, I also like the mistakes that I've made along my path of recovery. Like thinking I had something figured out and then all of a sudden having like a revelation or something like with surrender. Those moments are way more than if you handed me that revelation without the wrong.
Hmm.
You know, like coming out of like, whoa, I'm so wrong. And then all of a sudden, like, holy shit, I was wrong. Yeah, but I don't have to live there forever. Like that to me has just been the most powerful part of my recovery. And now we're coming to this part of our program where Boom Boom booms another joke. Do you have a joke for today, Boom Boom?
I do.
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
so Mr. Wrightsmore, I recently developed an addiction to seaweed.
Yeah.
I need to seek help.
Tune in next
That is
episode
beautiful.
for more recovery fun. Bye bye, everybody. We
That's
love
beautiful.
you. Woo. Please help us help others. If you like what you've seen here today, please subscribe and share this podcast and help us get to 100 followers. We're looking for interaction with our audience. So please email recoveryfreedomrising@gmail.com or contact Milan South Okanagan Starcic on Facebook with questions, topic suggestions, or just comments. We'd love to hear from you.